We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again.
Foreign policy was Joe Biden's forte as a senator, and it never fails to suck American presidents in. Antony Blinken, his Secretary of State, is being grilled by the US Senate this week. And on China, the elephant in this room, he sounds pretty much like his predecessor.
Secretary Pompeo designated the Chinese Communist Party as having engaged in genocide regarding the Uyghur Muslim population. Do you agree with that designation?
That would be my judgment as well.
You do agree?
Yes. If we look at China, there is no doubt that it poses the most significant challenge of any nation state to the United States in terms of our interests, the interests of the American people.
The genocide, if you formalize that designation, it would really complicate the capacity to negotiate with China on some things that the Biden administration has said it does want to keep the door open on, like climate change.
North Korea remains the most obvious military threat, with Kim Jong-un last week unveiling a new ballistic missile to be launched from a submarine. It looks as if Biden is not going to be any more successful than Trump on North Korea, because we're dealing with a dictator here who's determined to hold on to his nuclear weapons.
Try to get some confidence building, make sure there's no missile tests, but the idea that you could get to a complete big bargain agreement, I think, is impossible.
As for Iran, well, its Revolutionary Guard has also been showcasing its missiles, with Western experts estimating that enough material for a nuclear bomb could be ready in months. The Iranians want sanctions lifted, but that's a tall order for the US Congress, and for America itself rejoining the nuclear deal.
If Iran comes back into compliance, we would too, but we would use that as a platform with our allies and partners who would once again be on the same side with us to seek a longer and stronger agreement.
I think it would be too complicated a thing to try to complete in the first year of the administration, as much as they've said this is one of their priorities. You have Iranian elections coming up as well, so the Iranian side is not in a position to be constructive in making any kind of concessions on its side, and they've been burnt.
One relationship set to change dramatically is with the now vaccinated Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The CIA believes the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, a journalist, was most likely ordered by him.
President Trump has not punished senior Saudi leaders. Would you?
Yes, and I said it at the time. Khashoggi was in fact murdered and dismembered, and I believe in the order of the Crown Prince. And I would make it very clear, we were not going to in fact sell more weapons to them.
This week, Avril Haines, who is now Biden's Director of Intelligence, said the CIA's report on the murder would be published, apparently placing human rights above the Saudi special relationship.
Will you submit to the Congress the unclassified report required by the law?
Yes, Senator. I absolutely will follow the law.
Thank you.
The UK's special relationship depends not on being first to Washington, as Theresa May awkwardly was, but on shared defence, intelligence and trade. Boris Johnson has pivoted away from Donald Trump during the course of his premiership, and he'll be hosting Joe Biden at the G7 summit in June, though a president who goes misty-eyed at his Irish roots could take the greatest pleasure in welcoming the Taoiseach on St. Patrick's Day.
Well, we're joined now here in Washington, D.C. by the author and former speechwriter to President George W. Bush, David Frum. David, good to have you back on the program. You just heard Jonathan there talk about the famous special relationship. Does Joe Biden care, and should we stop caring?
Does he care about Britain? Well, of course, everyone in the American national security system cares a great deal about Britain. I don't think it's any secret that Joe Biden, like just about everyone in a position of responsibility in the United States, except for Donald Trump, thought that Brexit was an unwise choice. The choice having been made, it's going to be an important American economic and national security interest to have the most harmonious possible Brexit, the most harmonious possible relationship between Britain and the EU, and of course, an open border between Northern and Southern Ireland.
So the new administration won't like it if London distances itself unnecessarily more from Brussels.
Look, America has, since President Eisenhower, wanted Britain to have a close relationship with the continent because Well, first, it improves the British economy. Second, it prevents the French and Germans from being too statist because Britain raises a powerful voice on behalf of free trade interests inside the EU. And finally, because Britain inside the EU always discouraged the EU trying to compete with NATO in the defense business. But that's water under the bridge. The choice has been made, and now the choice has to be made successful.
How difficult is it for President Biden to undo some of the things that President Trump did, like really cozying up even more to Saudi Arabia and also to Israel, but at the same time, of course, breaking the Iran accord with Iran? How can he reverse those, and how easily will that be?
But President Trump actually accomplished astonishingly little in 4 years in the form of legislation. Legislation is difficult to change. Executive orders are not. The hardest thing to change will be this. The United States has inspired its adversaries with contempt and its friends with alarm. You have seen a presidency for sale to the highest bidder, and reassuring partners and adversaries that this was a passing event and that things are back to normal. That's going to be hard because the fact that we did it once raises the question, might you do it again? So that's going to be a top priority for Biden, is trying to persuade the world that the America they knew and trusted is back.
Now, when it comes to the Uyghurs in Western China, the last thing that Secretary of State Pompeo did was to declare their policy towards the Uyghurs genocide. Do you see continuity there in terms of the tough talk with China?
Here's something we all have to keep in mind as we adjust to the world as it is. When I went to work for George W. Bush, the American economy was 8 times the size of the Chinese economy. When President Obama took office, the American economy was 3 times the size of the Chinese economy. Today, China, depending on who's counting, is 2/3, 3/4 of the United States, a near peer. So the idea that the United States can simply scowl at China and get results, that's out of date. So if we have problems with China, we are going to need to build new kinds of international institutions. We can't just do it by ourselves. China is too big.